You're tuning in to Past Our Prime, a show powered by Squad Locker.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Here are your hosts, retired Astros minor league star Tip Fairchild and former Patriots All-Pro center Dan Copen.
Go rock this thing, huh?
All right, we have Mike or Michael. We're still going to figure out what he prefers because
Mike's fine.
All right, Mike.
Okay.
There, Mike Colleluori. Oh,
yeah, you nailed it. You did do a good job. We
just nailed it.
We worked on that with him before the episode.
I was close though,
to make sure you missed a whole syllable.
I think I was one syllable short.
Okay.
But Mike Colleluori from HeadSTRONG Foundation, partner with Squad Locker, and we're going to get into the whole HeadSTRONG Foundation, which is
I've known about HeadSTRONG for a long time, back from my days with Turfer, which turned into Squad Locker. We did some custom jackets at one time they have a really cool colorway, the lime green colorway, really cool. So we'll learn a ton about it. What did you ask him though?
Where in Pennsylvania are you from? Because he just asked us if we have a Birds jersey, and I can tell you definitively right now, Michael Colleluori, there will never, ever, ever be an Eagles jersey in here. Not a chance. No,
there won't be.
No, and I grew up in Whitehall, Pennsylvania, right outside of Allentown.
What's your team? The Patriots? Is that?
I was a Packer fan growing up.
Okay, they're gonna get beat this weekend. Actually,
by who?
By the Eagles.
Oh no, you guys almost got beat by who was it? Who almost beat you? Washington or no? Who was it this weekend? Detroit?
No, Detroit won.
Detroit beat the Giants.
Washington.
Who almost beat the Eagles?
Washington actually beat us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they smoked you last week.
We just beat the Colts.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
no, on a last-second touchdown, right? 17-16.
Yeah,
the Colts with Jeff Saturday as their coach.
Hey, a win's a win in my eyes.
That is true.
I actually believe.
I love that attitude.
That is a great attitude.
I love that attitude.
I mean, the NFL is so unpredictable. And I think I'm actually glad that the Eagles lost. I actually would like them to maybe lose a couple more games. And I feel like most of the teams that I've seen in the NFL and mostly like pro sports, when they take on a record like that, they eventually just disintegrate after like the first round of the playoffs. Like, I feel like you have to have some losses on your side to kind of, get grounded again, get humbled again.
You're speaking to.
I feel like there's nobody else here.
Yeah,
he's just talking to me, and he's trying to poke the bear. I feel like you're trying to poke the bear here, Michael.
Dan, as part of the what was it? 16.
I see them, doing well this year, but we'll see.
Dan was part, of the.
I like the Patriots.
Were you referring to the 2007 season at all in your head?
Say it again?
Were you referring to the 2007 Patriots season at all in your mind? Was that floating around in your mind at all? Just a little bit.
Yeah, because a participant on this podcast was the center.
This one's yours now.
Okay, all right, yeah. So you are.
Your question. So I have roots from South Philadelphia.
Oh, there you go.
I was raised in the suburbs of Philly.
Okay.
I currently reside in South Jersey, which is a beautiful royal area, all farms. I've been there for about 9 years. The organization is rooted in just south of the city of Philadelphia. And so that's kind of where I was born and raised. And so diehard Philly sports fans. I know we have a bad rep, but we're really great people, believe it or not. And I love you guys. In
my defense, though, I was born in the Midwest. So my whole family was Packer fans. Moved out to Pennsylvania when I was 7. So had I been born there, probably would have been a different story.
Yeah, 100%.
I did see a picture.
I'm just a big believer on, you got to run with your home team.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And if you want to have a secondary team that you cheer, my best friend from college, it drives me nuts. He's from upstate New York, which, should be a Buffaloes fan. And he's like a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. To the point where he's relocated to Dallas and is raising his family there. And so 2 years ago, it sounds crazy, but 2 years ago, I told him, I said, I consider him like a bandwagon fan. I, as a kid, was an Eagles fan, and I loved, I did like the Cowboys just because they were good when I was a kid. But I also was a San Fran fan at the same time. But, that's not my primary team. My team is the Birds, right? So I think he's a fake fan. I really do. And so I told him, I'm not talking to you in the football season until the football season's over. I'll answer your phone call. And he thinks I'm nuts, but I'm like, I'm done with it. Like,
that's how it works.
You got to be a real fan.
I think this brings up a good question here. I don't know if we've done this on the show before, but what is the age that if you were born somewhere, right, and then you relocate, right, in your life, right? So say my girls, my kids are 8 and 6.
Gotcha.
And we move to San Francisco.
Yep.
Right? Are they Patriots fans for life?
Yeah.
Right? Is it where you're born? Or is it?
I think it is. It's
okay.
Like your hometown, like where your roots are. You know what I mean? That's
I think if you're going to go that young, because I moved to PA when I was 7, and this is where you're going. I think you're not smart enough, you're not mature enough to have a team, so you kind of follow where your parents are, right?
I would assume.
So that's kind of
the parents are probably still big fans because they relocated.
If the parents were born there and your whole family's from there and they're all Eagles fans, yeah I would assume doesn't matter where you go, you're probably be an Eagle fan. But if we were in the Midwest, you're a Bears fan or a Packer fan. Like, you know, that's kind of where you.
Then you're that kid though in class where like everybody's all excited about the Patriots being in the Super Bowl.
So Mike's saying I'm not doing anything wrong being a Packer fan because I was born out there.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Just
so we're both right.
You know, then you got the kid though in class, like I was saying, that like everybody's like Patriots are in the Super Bowl, and this kid's kid's a huge like Colts fan. Yeah, you're like, what a bum.
Yeah, there's a Bills fan in my daughter's class that drives her nuts.
I know, it's tough.
Drives her nuts.
That's tough. Okay, so let's talk about HeadSTRONG, let's talk about lacrosse now. Let's just talk about lacrosse in general because we got a baseball guy here, a football guy there, lacrosse guy here. We've had some lacrosse guys on. Jenkins, my buddy Dave. It was a big time lacrosse guy,
good.
Right? He won a championship at Virginia. So we've brought a couple lacrosse guys on, but nobody who's made as much of an impact, I think, as you and the HeadSTRONG Foundation. I was looking up briefly when I do my research before these things, which is usually 60 to 90 seconds before I look a little bit more up. I did do more on the actual foundation, but you yourself, I saw a picture of you at a Phillies game, right? I'm like, okay, all right, so he's a Phillies fan, got it, right? Now, I did see some stats that kind of blew my mind. 23,000 families you guys have helped out, $24 million raised. That's massive stuff.
We just surpassed last week 26 million raised. Those numbers we'll get it updated here shortly.
And it was what 2007, right? That you guys
started.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, a lot of people that you've helped. Yeah. Can you take us through a little bit? I mean, the story is like super powerful, you know, and you can go into it as much as you want with your brother and everything. It's like, take us through it a little bit on how this started, a little bit of the background on it, and then we'll chime in with some questions too, I'm sure. But we'd love to hear about it, and feel free to elaborate on it too, because I know people want to hear more.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So my brother Nick and I were not even like a year apart. He was, I think 10 months older than me, and so I was in 3rd grade. He was in 4th grade. We were always outside playing, and one of our neighbors, who actually I talked to today, Michael Hagan, was across the street. We lived across the street from a park, and so Nick and I were like football players, wrestlers. We did everything. Like my parents always had us active in sports. I'm the baby of 4 boys, so like my parents were big on like us being, busy throughout the year, and so Nick and I, our neighbor was like, had these sticks and the ball, and they were like whipping the ball around, and we were just sitting there watching them. And Mike Hagan, my neighbor, was like, "You guys want to try it?" So we're like, "Yeah, of course." Like so they're teaching us how to like, sling the ball back and forth, and like we instantly just started like getting it. And so we run into, my parents were like calling us over for dinner, and so we go in, we're sitting down for dinner. And we're like so excited that we got to play this game, and so like to learn it. And I'll never forget, like we told our parents, like, "Mom, Dad, we're gonna get like full scholarship to go play Division I lacrosse one day." And my parents were like, "What's lacrosse? Like, what are you talking about?"
Right.
And so like next like we just totally fell in love with this sport. We were blessed to have like a very great youth lacrosse program. Matt Flynn, who's still running the program after I think 20 plus something years. And so the feeder from where we're from in lacrosse in Philadelphia, like the burbs, is like the Long Island, New York, is like Baltimore, like it's a hotbed for the sport. And so Club lacrosse was nowhere near where it is now, but our high school was also very competitive. We won 3 state championships. And at that time, we were playing, it wasn't like divided. So we were playing prep schools, private schools, Catholic schools, public schools. And at that time, like Pennsylvania was had such incredible, it was a public school, which is Ridley Township where I went to, and like 3 private schools in the championship every single year. And then we would go out to Hershey and play in the West Coast champion. And so we won 3 of them out of the 4 years we placed into the Final Four. And so Nick and I kind of really just fell in love with the sport of lacrosse. It opened up so many opportunities for us. And so we took scholarship together to go play at Hofstra University. Nick, his freshman year, did well. The team was stacked and got a lot of playing time at the long stick midi position. And then the following year was positioned to be a starter, which was my freshman year. 2 weeks in, we're college roommates, teammates, obviously brothers and best friends. And Nick was diagnosed with cancer and given 3 months to live. And September 21st of 2005, it was a Wednesday. Never forget it. Walked into Margiata Hall, which is like the athletic complex on Hofstra University's campus. And we actually had our apparel reps there. I think it was Brian at the time. And we called it Christmas. Like, you just get to pick out all your equipment. You get the helmets, the whole 9. And so we were super excited. And so literally I am leaving like an 8 a.m. class, running over to so excited to to pick out our equipment. This is our first time as a freshman. And so I get to the locker room and my coach is like, Mike, will you come upstairs to my office and help me carry down some of the product that we need, for you guys to pick out the gear? And I'm like, yeah, no problem, coach. So I run upstairs. As I walk into the office, my parents are in there. They have team doctors, counselors. My brother Nick's in there. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And so they're like, they told me the news. And so what's even crazier is like literally 10 minutes after this situation, I get a phone call. My best friend, Evan Brady, who was fighting osteosarcoma, had passed away at the same time. So that day is a day that I'll never forget. So Nicholas kind of took my brother Nick, was given this news and kind of took it in stride. Didn't get upset. He's like, listen, I'm just going to head back to Philly. I'm going to get some treatment. You stay here and I'll be back in the spring. I'll be ready to rock in the spring. And so comes back and started treatment at University of Pennsylvania Hospital. Nick fought extremely hard, fought for 14 months. So given 3 months and fought for 14 months. And he was a warrior, man. He was just incredible and really just had the ability to really live in his vision and not his circumstances. I always tell people that all the time. And Chuck Pagano from the Colts always has that quote. And it resonates so well with Nick because he knew what he was up against, right? He knew the reality of the situation and kind of just decided to focus on everything but that. And so obviously put all his faith and trust into the doctors and did what he had to do to try to, to beat this thing from a treatment standpoint. But outside of that, he was focused on his studies. He was focused on his relationship with his fiance. He was focused on his family. He was focused on like getting back to Hofstra and being just a great teammate and playing, getting back on the field. And then as things started to evolve, May of 2006, he went in for a transplant for 34 days straight, which was a pretty lengthy stay. And he had a lot of downtime. And so he started like running around the floors to kind of, exercise. And he was walking the floors, and Nick was just like an old soul, just a really like a people's person. He was a pleaser. He was an overachiever, and just like people just naturally were drawn to him. And so next, like University of Penn is asking him to help counsel like other people that were in his situation. So he's mentoring people that were currently fighting, and people that were suicidal, like, some really, really deep stuff. And so next, he starts hearing like all these like same problems that like he was facing, that my family was facing. And literally it was going to get a procedure done. And my dad had 2 promises to Nick during this whole thing. One is he's never going to leave his side. So he'll never go into any procedure, any treatment alone. My dad used to scrub into every single thing. And then the second thing is my dad's an incredible cook. And my dad was like, you're not going to eat any hospital food. I will make you breakfast, lunch, dinner, 365. I don't care. But that's how my dad has to like feed people. That's like what his gift is. Mm-hmm. And he's a very, very good cook. So with that being said, they're wheeling Nick into a procedure, and he literally was like asking for a pen and paper. And people were like, what are you doing? And so my mom was like, happened to be with them at the time because they were still in the hallway. My mom finds a napkin, like literally, I actually have one here, like finds a napkin and gives him a napkin and a pen. And he drew like our first ever logo, sketched it. And he's like, he starts talking to everybody about like, I'm going to start this organization. We're going to provide direct services to cancer patients. We're going to be sports-based. We're going to use sports as like our vehicle to generate awareness and funds and empower people to like rally behind us. And we're going to then take all the money and we're going to funnel it into services that are going to directly impact patients that are just struggling. And so, you know, he basically took like the emotional toll, the struggle, the financial struggle, and like the residential struggle that people face when they're diagnosed and fighting cancer. And he basically conceptualized this whole thing. And as you know, unfortunately, Nick's disease was very aggressive and he didn't respond well to any treatment. They gave him the whole show. And literally the night before he passed away, I was holding him. We were at home and he was on hospice. And before he passed, he was like, basically like, he looked at my mom, he looked at me, looked at my family, he was like, guys, promise me that like, you'll run with this, like you'll make this happen, this HeadSTRONG thing. And so, you know, after his passing, I was in a very dark place. A lot of us were, and kind of we still are. You know, you don't ever stop grieving the loss of a loved one like that. But, you know, me personally, like, I just wanted to give up on everything. I didn't want to go back to school. I was in a very, very dark place. And I'll never forget, I was like in my bedroom, wouldn't let anyone in. It was bad. And I'll never forget this one time. My dad literally comes in. They would send people into my room and they'd be laying with me in bed and trying to convince me to get out of bed, convince me to eat. I literally would get up, go to the bathroom, and come back in my bed. And this went on for weeks. And so I'll never forget this one day, my dad comes in. My dad calls me Sonny. And he's like, Sonny, he's like, I just want to take you for a car ride. I want to get you out of this room. I don't care, like, if it's for 5 minutes, if it's for 1 minute, like, please let me get you out of this room. And my brother Nick and I shared a room. So we had, you know, single beds. And my dad literally doesn't really give me an option. He picks me up. I'm like in my shorts and he picks me up in my comforter, puts me in the car, drove me back to Hofstra. I get to Hofstra. I was so delirious. Like I didn't put two and two together until we're at the Verrazano Bridge. I was like, holy shit, like, what are we doing? And he's like, you're going back to school. Nick wants you to be back at school. And I was like, wow. We get there, like the entire athletic department's there. They moved me back into my house. And from that day on, I was able to kind of take a step forward. Obviously, you know, I was able to seek professional help, which helped me significantly, which helped me a lot, which I strongly advocate for. And so I went back to campus, and at the time, like, my family was just rocked. We were just like, it was just, you know, the family was a mess, you know, and everyone was in a different place with everything. And my coach calls me in one day, and at this time too, we had a change in coaches. So my coach John Danowski, who recruited me, left and went to Duke, and then a new coach, Sat Tierney, came in, and I'm still close to both. But Coach Tierney had called me, and he was like, "We're gonna host a Nick Colleluori Classic. We're gonna have 4 teams at Ridley High School, where he went to high school. We're gonna have that on." And he starts like spitballing this whole thing, and I'm like, "Coach, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean?" He's like, "We're gonna host a college lacrosse event, like in memory of Nick, and you're gonna be the first person to play in it." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this you're gonna do this foundation too." And so next, you know, like, we started to get like some of those small wins, right? And so I start selling T-shirts and laces on campus. My mom was working for corporate America at the time for Staples. And so next, you know, this thing started to gain some momentum. No business plan, until like year 10. And every single year, this thing just starts to like multiply. 100% growth, 100% growth, 100% growth. And then, you had like Drexel University, men's lacrosse with Coach Chris Bates, puts the laces on his team, and they played Virginia that year, and they beat Virginia. And it was like the laces were like, the commentators were forced to talk about these laces. And so Nick identified the shoelaces. Nick was really, really inspired, believe it or not, by Lance Armstrong at the time, before everything kind of blew up. He found such inspiration in Lance, and Lance was instrumental in keeping Nick, focused and just in a positive frame of mind. And he really leaned on him and really found a lot of inspiration through him, from the bracelets and just, how he was able to funnel things through cycling, and just the work that foundation did was incredible. Obviously, there's a whole other side of that story, but on the surface, that was huge for Nick. And so Nick was so infatuated with how they could really rally and unite people through a silicone bracelet. And so he's like, what if every athlete, and everybody has to wear shoelaces, like what if we did lime green shoelaces? And next thing you know, backtracking a little bit, we got the shoelaces and just started handing them out to people. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, it just started it went viral. We started with like a $67 purchase of shoelaces, and we've done over 26 million, helped over 24,000 families. And now we have full-time, a team underneath of us, and we have a subsidiary company, our HeadSTRONG lacrosse division, which operates in like multi-states, and there's thousands of athletes in that. And that's been going on for 17 years and had probably over 4,000 athletes come through. And so, it's pretty crazy to see how, my family's commitment to Nick and the folks that we serve, and even just like our main focus, our vision is really to impact as many lives as possible. And we do that through building community. We're a very community-based organization, obviously with a heavy focus in sports. And really, we just don't shut up. We just continue to tell our story about Nick and the work that we do. And we allow people to be a part of it. It's not about me. It's not about my mom, who's our president. It's about all of us. And it's about Nick, and it's about the folks that we're working with today. And, cancer is a very, very devastating, nasty thing for someone to experience. And it's kind of like our commitment to try to walk that journey with them and support them as they need. And so we service patients 3 ways. We offer residential support. I'm actually in one of our facilities right now, which is it's called Nick's House, and it's 8,000 square feet. We're fully occupied right now. Families travel to Philly for treatment. We lodge them for free, however long they want to stay. And we also have, obviously all the amenities that you would at a house: laundry, groceries, the whole nine. Television, Wi-Fi, we have gyms, we have all kinds of stuff. And then, so we also service patients through financial aid. And then we have emotional services. Today, my mom just got back. We're down at University of Pennsylvania distributing comfort kits to the entire inpatient unit. On Thanksgiving, we will serve Thanksgiving meals this is probably year 14 straight. We will serve every patient, every family member, and every staff member at University of Pennsylvania on Thanksgiving, a Thanksgiving meal. And so there's things that we do there, and it's all about improving quality of life. Improving lives affected by cancer is our mission. And like I said, we are constantly just here to generate awareness and generate funds for the folks that we serve.
Yeah, I saw something on and that's super powerful. It's like tough to talk after
Holy
that.
Holy shit.
But
wow.
You mentioned, or it might have been a quote from Nick. You said lacrosse. He might have said lacrosse family brotherhood was important to him, and that's like for me. I'm in the baseball family brotherhood. For Danny's in the football family brotherhood, and it's real. It really is actually real, and it could just be high school. It could be the higher up you go, the tighter like that allegiance becomes. But it's how it works. Like if one of my buddies is in trouble or has a problem, like we're there for each other big time. I'm sure Dan's the same way, and that's what you guys did. You just turned it into something that was more than just being there for a buddy or for a brother. You're there for 26,000 people now, right? Or 23,000 families now, which is wild. Yeah. So, and it sucks that one thing they have to think about, I'm sure you'll echo this, is like the fact that you have to think about the financial aspect when this stuff is going on is absolutely crazy to me. I get it, but at the same time, you're trying to help a loved one survive, right? Or at least be comfortable through this. And you have to figure out how you're going to stay there, right? For a month, a year, right?
So
a day, whatever it is. Like,
you're going to have to travel to Philly for treatment. A hotel is about $10,000.
It's nuts. Like, and that's on your mind. Like you have to figure out how to do that.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And cancer is, I'm pretty sure, leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States right now is cancer.
Oh. Yeah, which makes sense, and that's ridiculous. But
just 1 month alone, like I remember the last month, Nick passed November 28th. The October prior to the month prior, his medical bills were over $250,000 just for 1 month. Not all that's covered under insurance. There's all types of things. You know, I mean, this stuff cripples. It took my parents 5 years to financially rebound. You had to sell basically everything. We sold our shore house, our boats, like anything extra. I sold my quad, like, and gave my parents like the $1,500. My brother Dan was paying our mortgage. Like it literally ripples right through a family. And you know, if you don't have the financial means, if you're not a wealthy individual, like, what do you do? Right? It's like, you don't have a choice. This is like survival. Yep. You're in survival mode. And so you do whatever you can. And unfortunately, the sad part is a lot of folks just go on hospice.
Right.
They won't travel. They'll go to a local place. They'll get treatment. It doesn't work. They won't go to a specialized place like Chopper Penn or wherever, Dana-Farber, Sloan, whatever the case may be. They literally won't go. They can't swing it financially. So they'll just go on hospice and stay home and die.
How do families find you mostly? I mean that now you can go on the website and look it up and probably have an application, but you know, maybe when this thing just started to get rolling, when you were offering, you know, Nick's house or this financial support, how did they find you early on?
That's a great question. And so we have like strategic partnerships with the social workers. We also work very closely with a lot of the like leaders in the cancer industry, like Dana-Farber, like Sloan, like CHOP, like Penn, Hopkins, and down the line. So we have forged relationships with those folks. Our process, we try to make it simple, but we don't necessarily directly connect with the patient until they've been qualified through a social worker. Then it's then verified through a physician. And then once that need is verified by both those points, we then are introduced to the family to then issue whatever type of support that they need. So really, it's about education and awareness, and the relationships that we have with the whole entire social workers network. In addition to doctors and physicians, you know, kind of like all across the globe now. It's pretty insane. But a lot of it was like sweat equity, right? Just putting time in. We would attend all their patient advocacy events. You know, we are patient facing. But at the same time, like the demand for our services is so high that we have to have some of these processes in place. If not, like we wouldn't even be able to operate because it's like, I'm not kidding you. We obviously have a team. We have an entire team that just fields all of the inquiries that come in because there's not a lot of organizations like us. We're very niched in that way with direct service to the patients. And the other thing too is most nonprofits within the cancer sector are all on the research side because that's where it's an easier lift. There's a lot of funding from, you know, the states, the governments, the grants, you know, and so we're more on the human side. And so it's a grind and every day is an uphill battle, just because there's so many people. I think there's probably like at least 15 million people right now, you know, living with cancer in the United States. And so it's something that's not going to go away at any time soon. I hope it does. I hope it does, but I don't necessarily foresee that. And so like, what's interesting here at HeadSTRONG is like the money comes in, it goes right back out. So it's like every single day, we're grinding. And so, it takes a village to, as they say, to really operate this thing. And it's no easy task. So
HeadSTRONG's a lot like the Joe Andruzzi Foundation. I played with Joe up in New England.
I know him well.
Yeah. And they support a lot of the families and the financial needs like HeadSTRONG.
Yeah. I remember when he was first starting, we met together. He was still playing for the Patriots, and we met in the parking lot, me, him, his wife, and my mom. And we just sat there and talked. He actually just reached out because they just launched an app where folks that are diagnosed with cancer can go on the app, and then you could more or less identify like what resource you're looking for. Like, let's just say it's financial aid. Mm-hmm. You can select financial aid and then find like all the nonprofits like Joe Andruzzi Foundation, HeadSTRONG, that provide financial aid. And then it's almost like a library, essentially, of different resources that people can have at their fingertips. Because sometimes you go on the web and like the Susan G. Komen dominates, or like American Cancer Society, if you type in financial aid, like they pop up. They don't even offer financial aid. You know what I mean? But you're looking for financial aid. So just because they spend so much money from an advertising standpoint. So, he's providing that, which is awesome. And they're a great organization. They've done great work. He's just a first class person.
Big Italian family as well, like yours. I'm picturing
he eats more than Mike.
Oh yeah, he definitely eats more than him.
We just saw him last month.
I'm picturing the Colleluori family as you described your dad, and your mom and your brother and your other brothers, like big Sunday meals and all this stuff. And then you have Nick going through what he's going through. And in that time of what he's doing, he's not thinking about himself. He's thinking about people. Thinking about you guys. He's thinking about people he doesn't even know, and he's mapping this out in his head. I mean, you've known him your whole life. You live with him, but how impactful is that? Like thinking about the lasting memory of your brother, and that's what he's thinking about.
Yeah, it's very inspiring. I think that's like what kind of lays the foundation here. Because he was more than life, and really just in his situation where he could have easily felt like sorry for himself. And his biggest thing that he preached to everybody was just like acting as if he didn't have cancer, like trying to make things as normal as possible. And it's something that we kind of like retell to people, because when someone's diagnosed with cancer, everyone's like, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? That person just wants to be treated like normal. Right. They don't want to be bothered. Right. Just like let's go to the movies. Let's do what we normally do. Like, yeah, I got to go to the hospital and get this chemo, or I got to get this blood transfusion. But outside of that, like, let's live a normal life. And so as normal as possible. And I've seen too, like that even helps just with the mental state, the mental fight when it comes to a disease, regardless if it's cancer or not. Just try to like neutralize the situation. A lot of times when if I meet with patients or if I don't even talk about cancer. Cancer doesn't even come up in my conversation. I'm talking about, what they've been up to, how their family is, like learning about them and what they got going on, everything beside. I don't even bring up the topic. We don't even talk about it. That's just the way that I've seen be most beneficial. And Nick kind of like set that tone, you know what I mean, for us, just in the wake of everything that he was going through. He just like focused on everything but that. He was aware of it and recognized it, but yeah, no, it's definitely very inspiring. I think it's a great way to live. I always, like I said, he lived in his vision. He was just all about like this foundation and about, he wanted to become, he wanted to change his major from education to become a counselor. He wanted to work with young adolescents that were dealing with cancer to help them through it, just to get through it mentally, and go from there. So. What years did you said you played in the league?
Yeah, I was with New England from 03 to, that's why we were jabbing at you with the 2007 comment. I was 03 to 11 with New England, and then the last two in Denver. So Joe was with me. I was with Joe. Joe was kind of like my mentor on the line. I would go to his house afterwards, grab dinner, and he was older, had a family, sort of like, all right, that's a good guy. And by the way, so I played with him probably 2 years, 3 years, and then he went out to Cleveland.
You were there for 2 wins and 2 losses. That's the way that I usually look at it.
Thanks. What I found great about Joe was when there was an off night, I mean, this was before his foundation. And even when he got cancer, he really didn't want to attach his name to that foundation. He wanted, he didn't want the recognition to come on him. He wanted to be about the families that they were helping. So it took a little bit. Yeah, I think he understood it from a fundraising perspective. This will be better long term for the families that are involved. But when he got the call, I'm not going to jump to the cancer, but he was always out at charitable events.
Yep.
For the 3 years that I knew him. I mean, there was not a nicer guy and a more charitable guy willing to donate his time. Every night he was doing stuff. And you have teammates like that and just like, God damn, they do the right thing.
Yeah, and there's
it's inspiring.
And in your story that you mentioned too, and this is like not to be this is like, you got to bring this up. How tough like your dad was to like pull you out of bed like that, and how tough you are just to get out of bed. That shit is hard. I can't even freaking imagine. That's stuff that's like a real tough person. You know what I mean? To like get through that, and then to have somebody bring you to school, and then all your buddies being there, and all the athletic department being there, like that's not easy. And that's we gotta show you some on that too, because that's just incredible like strength. I'm sure there's 1,000 stories like that in your family too, but that's the one that you mentioned. It's like, geez, like that one got me pretty good when you were talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to talk about it because it's okay to open up, be a little vulnerable, but also one thing I've found is it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter like if it was cancer, if it was addiction. Like, everyone goes through shit. It's just life, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to be faced with adversity, whether you like it or not. And so I think our story kind of indicates like how we responded, during this situation that came out of left field. Like, my brother Nick was like 19 years old, probably the healthiest he's ever been physically. Mm-hmm. He was a great student. He was like this all-American kid. Everyone loved him, right? And this just happened. You can't explain it, And so, and how my family has responded and what we've done in the wake of his passing to help all these other people, I think, is a testament to, you can move forward, right? Everybody can get through it, right? It doesn't matter what the situation is, whether it's divorce, and so, but I'm a big believer in every day, just like each day, just making some small progress. I feel like everyone just sets too big of a target sometimes. And I always tell everyone it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, everything that I am involved with, business, personal, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We obviously have a goal that we want to work towards, but every day we're gonna crawl, walk, run to it, jog to it, whatever we got to do. But every day we're making small steps towards the goal. And I feel like in today's world, people feel like something happens to them and they're just like in a silo, and you're really not, And so I think part of my story that I try to share is I try to open up and share moments in my life that I was in a very, very dark place. And here I am now, you know what I mean? It's crazy to think about how dark my 20s were and how bright my 30s are. Mm-hmm. And so you just never know where life's going to take you. But I feel like all of these things and all these adversities that we face, that's where we make the most growth. And that's how we build into who we are, and that's how we work towards greatness.
Yeah, well, it's 1% better every day is better than like these huge leaps and bounds. Like, every single day, 1% better. Like, doing something that gets you there. It sounds like that's what you guys do, and then the foundation helps people with that big time. Like, that one Thanksgiving meal that you give somebody saves them X amount of dollars, right? Like, that's something that they were thinking about in their head, which is nuts. So
they might be away from home. How are we going to get it?
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
a whole bunch of things that go into that.
I do have a lighter question to ask him.
Well,
I do want to know. You said your dad's a great cook.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, right now, he can come in, like, you can get the meal of your choice.
He can cook for us.
He cooks for us.
What's he going to cook for us?
A couple big guys. What's he going to put in front of us?
It's a long list.
I've lost a lot of weight. I'm 230 pounds. Dan's 250 pounds. So we're big guys.
I think I'm sub 250 right now.
I'll tell you this. It's whatever's in the fridge. Oh. And what I mean by that is my dad, this is the guy's answer. I don't get it, right? He'll literally go in the fridge and he'll take stuff out. I watch it all the time. No recipe. And he'll literally serve you something and you'll be like, how did you make this? Like, what did you do? He won't tell you. But like this guy will literally make stuff. It's like he gets it from his father. My grandpa was a baker. He owned a bakery in South Philly. And so my dad just knows how to cook. Right? Literally comes to my house and just drops off Tupperwares of food, like gravy, meatballs, chicken parm, the whole nine. But everything this guy cooks, like he just dropped off Italian egg soup the other day. You ever have it? It's like an egg omelet cut in squares. It's like got like spinach in it, different types of cheeses, and the chicken broth. It's like a family tradition around this time of year. But like, can make anything. And it's just like everything is cooked.
We just had we had Guy Fieri on we had Guy Fieri on a month or so ago. Like we have to bring your dad on.
Here's a serious question, because this has been going.
You have a serious one?
Oh, a serious one. This is a debate that's been going on probably for ages, but it's more recent in our fantasy football league. There's 2 Italians, right? One sauce, one gravy. What is it? And what's your definition? And how can you? Because they both are very strong in how they feel. So what's the ultimate answer?
I call it gravy. Like especially, I think it depends what it's paired with. Like if you're eating pizza, it's like your pizza sauce. Like stromboli, it's like a pizza sauce. But if you're eating it with like pasta, meatballs, spaghetti, gnocchi. I was always raised as gravy.
Here's the definition.
I'm sauce, but I'm not Italian.
I think you're on the gravy train. So here's the definition.
That's a real term.
The gravy train is a real term. Great. Throw it in there.
That's a good pun.
Thank you. Here's the definition I got for gravy from the guy who basically says it's gravy, not sauce. Anytime you're adding meat to it to create the sauce, it is gravy. Yeah. And if it's a pizza topping or red sauce or something,
if it's like a tomato based,
if there's no meat being added when you're simmering it or whatever you want to do, throw meatballs in there. I don't even know how you make. Now
it's gravy. You're saying
anytime meat's included in there, it's gravy.
Like a lot of times, people will ground up like meat or sausage and cook and it's a
correct.
Of it. Yeah,
I feel like this is a fair definition.
What you're eating.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair. I feel like we learned something.
Yeah, you're the one that had that definition.
Well, I know, but I mean, just like he's got the Sunday dinners. I'm not Italian. Okay. I wanted to know his professional opinion.
I've never once even considered calling it gravy.
Never considered.
I've never considered calling it gravy. Gravy to me is the only gravy I've ever eaten. If you
first time I heard gravy
is gravy on turkey, like or that's it. That's all I can.
First time I heard gravy was at college when there was North Jersey, like Bergen County people sitting there going to gravy. I'm like, it's not brown. I'm not putting it on turkey. This isn't gravy. It doesn't work like that.
I'm not smushing my spoon into the mashed potatoes and dumping it in it.
You guys are insane.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Not gravy. All right. So how do we? So here's what I think. No, you go first.
Giving Day.
Giving Day, yeah.
Giving Day is Tuesday, November 29th.
That's important.
So for everybody listening, please consider donating on Giving Day to the HeadSTRONG Foundation.
Yes. So obviously, you guys know too, we are expanding our Nick's House initiative. I've been up there with my mom. We went up there with our chair. We're expanding our Nick's House to Boston. And so my mom's actually heading back up December 1st. We just got back 2 weeks ago. We looked at 15 properties in a day and a half. It was insane. But we're looking at like West Roxbury and Jamaica Plains as the area to be able to support Dana-Farber, folks that are staying at Dana-Farber to be treated. Yep. And also there's another stumping on it. There's another major hospital right there too, not too far away.
Mass General?
Leahy Clinic?
Mass General? Or is that part of Dana-Farber?
There's a couple there. Oh, there's one downtown Boston. I'm blanking on the name, but Beth Israel?
Yes. I think you're right.
I feel like we're nailing these, but maybe not.
Brigham?
No. There's a lot. We'll find out.
Yeah, so we're obviously going to be expanding a Nick's House project there to support folks up in that area. And so, a lot of the funding that we're going to be launching a campaign here soon. And, we'd love for folks to get behind us some way. Year-end contribution would be great. To learn more about the project up there would be awesome for people. If anybody wants to get involved with it, obviously, always open to share what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that it's tricky sometimes. Like if I think about donating, I'm sure you're probably the same, Dan, and like whoever else. It's like, where do you do it? Where do you know that it's going to a good spot, right? Like this one is a good spot. Yeah. Like this makes total sense. And like, I think Joe's foundation also, like those ones you're like, okay, this is going to something where there's nothing that I would want to do more if I was going to give my part to this. And if it wasn't my family or something that, man, would I like to have somebody be able to stay closer to their loved ones or be able to eat like around their loved ones or something like that. That is a good spot to put your money to use is what I feel like.
Yeah, we have comfort kits that we send all over the country. We have about like 500 to 600 applications a day just for those. Those comfort kits get sent. Sarah over here, who's one of our patient coordinators with our whole volunteer group, literally sends them out. Like it's insane. So like there's different, our focus is direct support to the patient. People like today, like right now, like direct support, and that's kind of what we've seen. We basically turned our family's hardships into services that basically were, when things become a theme, then there's usually an opportunity or a problem. And so we saw from Nick's, Nick conceptualized this based on the same stories that he was hearing from all these other families. Mm-hmm. Nick's house basically started because my father was going home to cook Nick dinner, ran into a gentleman that he met on the floor whose daughter was being treated. This guy was having a nervous breakdown, like out of control at the parking garage, right, where you pay for your parking. And he was living in his vehicle with his wife and other children while his daughter was being treated and didn't have enough money to pay for the parking. Mm-hmm. My dad pays this guy, pays his parking tab. This family moves in with us while their daughter is being treated. And after Nick passed away, my dad said, if we should do like an apartment in the city of Philadelphia so that we can have, like, even if we just have one family stay there, that's all we need to do. So that started the wheels for Nick's house. And so my mom and I, we did like a 3.5-year search all over Philly, north, middle, south, west, east, the whole nine. And we eventually stumbled on a property, which is now our offices, which we're actually moving out of because the organization is expanding. But we did a pilot study where the first floor was our office. The second floor was a 2-bedroom apartment. It was like a revolving door, nonstop. The family moved out, next family moved in. We then expanded. We did a $1.5 million campaign and bought the project that I'm in, the house that I'm in right now, which is Nick's house. We're situated right next to Swarthmore College, right in the suburbs of Philly. We're about like 15, 20 minutes from the hospital. And it's a community-based, our Nick's house model is like a community home. The community is involved with the house. The community comes and is a part from a volunteer standpoint. They come here and we offer activities here. The community's involved. The communities, I just put up, there's community members outside here raking leaves. Like, so it is it's like a big family. And so we're looking to replicate this same concept up in Boston, New York, and Baltimore over the next 8 to 10 years is really the vision of the organization. And then funnel the additional services that we have to those families that stay with us and also in those markets. So we're going to be expanding and building out in the Boston area with a whole entire team up there, regional executive director and all of that over the next, year or so, which is exciting. And maybe we might even partner up with Joe Andruzzi on some stuff because he's awesome and they got a great thing going as well. And I think, it's all about everyone just helping, make a difference. Did you play with Chris Hogan?
Oh yeah. St. Ignatius.
Chris Hogan.
No, Chris Hogan's a lacrosse player. No, I was thinking of another guy. Hogan was just after me.
Yep. He wore.
He went to Penn State, didn't
he? He wore our bracelet. He wore our bracelet in the Super Bowl. There's actually
yeah.
Super Bowl.
All right.
He played at Penn State. He's a year behind me in lacrosse, and so wore our laces. I think he did his the cleats at the time too.
Yeah, he did. The day that they do the cleats,
which is right around this time. It's probably right around this week or something.
We have like, I would say upwards of 9 or 10 athletes this season. I think it starts next week and the following doing cleats. My cleats, my cause.
That's phenomenal.
So, for HeadSTRONG, which is just great awareness for
Mike,
us.
you got 2 guys up here that when you come up here, you need anything, just give us a call. We're willing to, do whatever we can.
Where are you guys based out of?
We're in Rhode Island. We're in the Warwick office of Squad Locker, so we're right here. But we're always running around. We're Providence, East Greenwich area, I guess. But you're in Boston. We're in Boston.
50 minutes to Boston.
Boston's a 29 minute Acela ride. It's pretty easy to get up there. So nice and easy for us. So yeah, you guys are doing tremendous stuff. HeadSTRONG Foundation, like keep it up. And
thanks for everything you're doing, and thanks for sharing your story of Nick, man. What a person, and what a vision, and what he's been able to, and you guys have been able to create. It's pretty special.
We gotta get some lime green in here. Not Eagles green in here.
No,
but we'll get some lime green.
No Kelly green.
All right.
We got signature laces.
I'm pretty sure I got some of those actually from early on.
I think Squad Locker is going to be doing some stuff with those laces.
Cool.
Part of this whole thing and talking with Gary is really just trying to educate, your customer base of our organization and finding ways to kind of get those folks involved and engaged with us to continue just to help, folks in need. So
yeah, it's great stuff.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Right.
Mike, Michael, whatever you are, you're an amazing guy. So we appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Take your time.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, man. All right.
Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
You too.
Same to you.
Past Our Prime is brought to you by Squad Locker. Squad Locker is your one-stop shop for custom team apparel, delivered right to your front door. Learn more by visiting squadlocker.com.